You are in for really quite a treat, and I'm surprised that it's taken her 12 years to actually say, I'm going to be the keynote, because her information is so unbelievable. So I really hope you kind of get the most and really enjoy what Dr. Nathalie has to say. She is, by the way, and when you see her body, and I just had an opportunity to see it, it is ripped and shredded, but she's actually, and I'm realizing this, was a professional into the bodybuilding. She has been an amazing wellness consultant and lecturer, a business mentor, a television and radio personality, which I have seen firsthand, a wonderful international motivational speaker, and the author of 2 books, Wellness on the Go, which is fantastic, and recently published, and can't wait to read this one, Hack Your Health Habits. She strives to lead through education and helping other people empower themselves to live their best, mostly through health and a healthy and fulfilling life. She believes that everyone has the potential to live a life of vitality, which is why she is so dedicated to educating her patients on the power of natural health solutions. So please welcome to the stage, Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp.
All right, am I mic'd on now? Yes. Wow, the light is bright. So welcome. I hope you're having a great day so far, and I'm really excited to do this presentation. You may notice my voice is a little bit harsh, and I literally didn't have a voice yesterday, so it's back now, thankfully. So a few months ago, I was part of a competition of speakers, and there were 8 speakers speaking on stage, and we were being judged. It was a competition. And I'm used to talk in front of people. I'm also used to do live TV with Leanne, and also on the French TV channels. But I thought, if I'm going to go through, the process of doing a 10-minute, how many of you are familiar with the TED Talk format? Short, 10 minutes intense, right? It wasn't a TED Talk, but it was something very similar. I said to myself, I might as well, push myself. So I decided to do a rant. So some of you know that you've come to the office, or some of you are a patient or friend and family. You've heard me rant about something, but I'm used to do that kind of behind closed doors. So it was definitely a stretch for me to rant in public like that. And as I wasn't sure if my voice was going to be okay, I had the talk recorded. And with your permission, do you want to hear my rant? I thought you would. So, caution, rant in progress here. So it's 10 minutes, and then we will proceed with the talk. How did you guys like that? Thank you. Leanne was asking me backstage, she says, is it on YouTube yet? I said, no, I haven't figured out how I'm going to release it, so you guys are the first one to see it. So rant over here. So I've decided that we're going to have a lot of fun today. I really want to make this very interactive. So I've decided I'm going to make you work a little bit, and I like to make people think. So we're going to play a game of true or false, and I was going to make signs and design them and so forth, but I'm like, hey, we can do this. So, pretty easy. If the answer to my question is right, you're going to raise your right hand. Pretty easy, right? If the answer is false, you're going to raise your left hand. So I will be able to figure out what you think. What I basically did, I pulled questions or topics from my book, Hack Your Health Habit, that after 2.5 years, and some of you are patient and have heard me talk about it for so long, it was like giving birth, I tell you. It was unbelievable. You think you're done and you're not done. Call me a bit of a perfectionist, I know, but I really wanted this to be amazing, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But I also created, with the book, an online academy, because I really discovered in practice that people want to do some changes, but then they don't necessarily know how to implement those changes. So the academy is a 5-step process that I created that people can do from the comfort of their home, and they can listen to the video. I'm basically with you at home, but I'm not with you at home, which you probably don't want me at home anyway. And in order to make the presentation even more interactive today, and I'll ask Samantha to bring I've invited 2 fictitious characters. So we have, first of all, Janet. Thank you, Sam. And then Samantha is going to read who Janet is. And I say fictitious character, but really, it might be you sitting in the room. Really, it's people that, you know, are around us and that people that I see all the time. Go, Sam.
All right. So meet Janet. Janet is a 42-year-old administrative assistant with 2 kids. She describes her lifestyle as pretty healthy. Janet is a veggie lover, eating a wide variety of colors, and is typically good at avoiding sugar. She does not take any supplements. She loves to run marathons, and despite chronic hip and knee soreness, she still pushes through. Nothing an Advil can't fix. Every month, around that special time, she also experiences really bad PMS symptoms. But doesn't every woman? Her previous work as an esthetician in her own home while her kids were growing up. Janet has 5 mercury fillings. She does not sleep well, and she often wakes up at 2 a.m. and has a hard time going back to sleep. She catches colds easily and is often fatigued and finds herself at the doctor's office frequently trying to figure out what is wrong, despite her blood results always coming back pretty normal. She is currently being assessed for a potential diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome. She also describes a lot of digestive discomfort, like gassiness and constipation. Janet is typically good at warding off stress, but she's been feeling anxious lately. Janet's mom was recently diagnosed with dementia, so she's really trying to keep her brain sharp as she ages. So she started to do some online brain exercise games to prevent cognitive decline. She also uses prayer and her long runs as her form of meditation. Her sister recently passed away from breast cancer, so she's trying her best to stay as healthy and vibrant as possible. 5 years ago, she left an abusive marriage to raise her kids on her own. Overall, Janet describes herself as generally healthy and happy and interested in taking preventative measures so she could be around for her kids and set a healthy example for them to follow.
All right, now we're going to meet Bob. I didn't want to be sexist, and I wanted to have him in. So it is not Bob the Builder, just so you know. He does look like him, but here's Bob. So Samantha, I'll get you to read about Bob's health.
Okay, so meet Bob. He's a 48-year-old factory worker in a chemical plant. He has 2 kids, and he loves spending time with them, either doing outdoor activities like fishing or going to the movies. Bob's dad was not around much growing up, so he's making sure he spends as much quality time with them as he can. Bob is the kind of guy that is always in a good mood and does not stress out easily about the small stuff. When it comes to his health, Bob is fairly diligent with his annual doctor's visits, but isn't too good at following his doctor's instructions. Bob is pre-diabetic, hypertensive, and has sore joints, but does not get sick very often. He's slightly overweight, holding most of the weight around his midsection. His doctor has been warning him that his triglyceride levels are creeping up, which can affect his heart health, but Bob brushes it off. He's only 48. He's got plenty of time to get into shape, right? He isn't too keen on structured exercises, and he's on his feet all day at work, and is not a huge fan of the concept of eating green vegetables either. He frequently eats on the go, and most of the time his meals consist of processed, high trans fat foods that he knows probably aren't the best for him. Organics? You mean a scam for expensive food? He's not a huge believer in the eating clean movement, and neither does he think taking supplements makes a difference at all. But he does humor his wife and takes the probiotics she makes him take every day. Bob does not really embrace things like meditation, but does love to go for walks in nature to decompress. Bob gets in about 6 to 7 hours of sleep per night and feels rested upon waking. His gut is working just fine, and he has pretty good energy.
Thank you, Sam. So as you can see, when we read the Janet and Bob, do you recognize yourself in some of the symptoms? Do you know people around that are like that? Yeah, it's us. It's us walking around. So I had come up with actually 12 questions, but I think we would have been here for 2 hours, so I narrowed it down to 9. So let's start right now. The first question, you can't teach a dog new trick. How many of you think that the answer to this question is true? Raise your right hand. And if you think it's false, raise your left hand. Oh, I've got a smart crowd here. So, all right. The answer is, it depends. Why? Because I talked a bit about a big enough why in my rant, and I see that all the time in practice. I've been at it for 22 years, and I've seen people walking in my office, with all sorts of health issues. And one that I see often is, let's say I don't see someone for 2 or 3 years, then they come back, wow, they've lost weight, they're working out, they're looking amazing. I'm like, wow, what have you been doing? They're eating clean, all the right stuff. And then I ask, why? I had a heart attack. So why is it that we need that heart attack or that cancer diagnosis? So to me, it's so important to ask these questions. The other reason why it depends, and I briefly touched upon it with the book, are habits. We somehow have a hard time integrating those habits. And that's another thing that I talk about in the rant is that I know, or, oh, Nathalie, I can't buy vitamins. I keep forgetting to take them. So in the book, I was not just going to write a book and that you would say, okay, that was nice, and not do anything about it. So in the book, I make you work. Most of you that know me, I make everybody work, I think. But I make you think and pull out certain amount of information. And I came up with basically 3 levels of hack. So let me explain. The level 1 is that quick and easy. So you just read maybe online something about your deodorant that is really toxic to yourself and you had no idea. So you're going to go to Cardish, you're going to go buy some deodorant, you're going to replace it, you're going to ditch the other one, and here you go. Not much to it. You don't have to think about it too much. The level 2 hack is a little bit more complex, and I go back to that, not being able or remembering vitamins. So what is it that you're doing every day, no matter what? Is it having a cup of coffee, brushing your teeth? I hope everybody's going to say that to that. So how about tricking yourself if you want, and putting the vitamin right beside your toothbrush, because it's a habit that you're going to do. These are just examples. And a level 3 hack is way more complex. It could be the stopping smoking for some people. It could be that 10, 20 pounds you've been wanting to lose and you just can't seem to do. And you don't approach those the same way. And I think that's what's happened, is that people get discouraged and then they give up. It's January 27? How many of you are still on par with your New Year resolution? Right? Nobody's raising their hands, right? 27 days. Maybe you overshot your goal. So I think it's very important that we assess and then we integrate. And I always say, think about it. If you change 1 habit a month, you will have changed 12 habits in a year. That's pretty powerful stuff. So how is that relevant to Bob and Janet? So in terms of the why for Janet, I think we talked about the fact that her sister passed away of breast cancer and her mother has dementia. So for her, and she has 2 kids that she needs to take care of. So her why is pretty big. But Bob, easygoing, he still has time and so forth. So for him, it's not pressing. So what is it going to be the triggering moment or the aha moment? Is it going to be a heart attack? MD's already told him that his triglycerides are high. And then the question to you is your why big enough? Are you brushing off something in your life that you're like, And I'm saying this coming from the heart. I'm not being judgmental here. What is it in your life that may need some work, and you have to ask yourself, what's your why? The other questions that we're going to answer here. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So raise your right hand if you think it's true. Raise your left if you think it's false. All right, we got some mixed answer here. The answer, it depends. Told you I was going to make you work, right? So why does it depend? And Dr. Giannopoulos is going to talk about that more in detail this afternoon, but basically, skipping breakfast would become intermittent fasting, intermittent fasting. And we have to think, back in the days, it was most feast and famine, right? You went out, you killed whatever animal, you ate it, and then you may not have been able to eat for several days or several weeks. We live in a society that we're constantly feeding ourselves. On top of that, what are we eating for breakfast? Muffin, cereals, toast. What do you think is in there? Sugar. It's all sugar. So we've become those sugar-burning machines. And what happens is that we're not tapping into our fat sources. So intermittent fasting is very good if we want to learn and teach our body to tap into our fat storage. There's a lot of research out there already with cancer treatments and epileptic treatments as well. But more and more now, we're really discovering that it's almost all about inflammation. What is inflammation? What is chronic inflammation? It's diabetes, it's high blood pressure, it's heart issues, it's dementia, it's arthritis. All of those are inflammatory diseases. So, we've been told, Dr. Stephen's going to talk about that this afternoon as well, cut the fat. Well, we have to realize our brain is almost 75% fat. So we've been told, don't eat fat, don't eat fat. Again, there are some fats like the trans fat and the processed fats that are not good, but we need to be able to tap into those fat sources. So skipping breakfast may not be all that bad because a lot of people out there are actually pre-diabetic and they don't even know. Now, it's all about controlling your blood sugar, and I was just talking this week, and I know last week, she's in the room, she was saying that she could never do that because she's got hypoglycemia, and that she had to eat 4 or 5 times a day. And again, not debating that it's right or wrong, but we're constantly feeding the body, we're not tapping into those fat storage. Now, when we don't have any symptoms, it could be fine. When we don't have any major illness, it could be fine. But there's a lot of stuff that will come on later. Just actually this week, one of my patients was lying on the table, and she said, I actually, stopped her. I said, do you realize how powerful what you just said is? She's like, 42 or 43. And she said, it's not my body today that I'm scared of. It's my body when I'm 70. Isn't it true? So you might feel great right now, but how is it going to be, in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Now, we don't control everything, and I'm going to talk about epigenetic and genetic in a further slide, but there is so much that we can control. So nobody is going to tell you what's right for you. Like I was saying in the rant, you really have to dig, and it is not a one-size-fits-all, and we're going to talk about that. So how's this relevant to Janet? So Janet loves marathon, and she takes Advil before she goes to run. Sore hips, sore knees. Is that inflammation? Yeah. You bet. What about Bob? His triglyceride are high and he's pre-diabetic. Is that inflammation or what? Yeah. So could they benefit from intermittent fasting, or at least, making sure that their bodies are using glucose effectively, but also tapping into those reserves. Now the question is for you, have you tried different diet? And you don't go on intermittent fasting like that. Like I know myself, I used to kind of freak out at the thought of not eating. If I had to go get blood tests at urgent care, I wouldn't sleep all night because I used to, go to the gym and I had to eat right after. And then I started to play with it. I'm like, okay, let's see how I do with this. So I would not eat for 8 hours, 10 hours, 11 hours, 12 hours. And then the last thing I knew, I was able to do it for quite some time. My energy was amazing. And all through the process, you can measure your blood sugar level, you can measure your ketone. Diabetic will do it with their glucose. You can also do it with the ketones. Again, I'm not gonna, go too much in detail with that, but do know that these things are out there. And those more ketogenic diets that are tapping into fat as fuel don't create as much inflammation. I often give the example, glucose, when you have a fireplace and it gets all, greasy and all of that. This is how glucose burns. And comparison to that, natural gas. It's clean, it's not making a mess whatsoever. It doesn't create as much, soot, and it doesn't create as much inflammation. So this is a difference of us burning glucose versus burning ketones, which is a byproduct of us using our fat. So again, try new stuff. And I go nuts when people say, oh, my friend is doing this diet, and they're all, we're all different, and I'm going to talk about that, but you have to make the time and take the effort to make some changes and try. It may not have worked for your coworker to do something like that, but it may work for you. And you have to think of that 60, 70-year-old body. I have to mention it here. My mom and dad who are sitting in the audience. Bonjour, maman puis papa. My mom got dementia and Alzheimer. She's been diagnosed a year and a half ago. And so now, I'm going to get emotional here. It's really hit home for me. My mom had a pretty good lifestyle. So why? And me being me, I got the genetic test done for myself. I got it done for her. And guess what? Neither of us have the Alzheimer gene. So what it means is that it's whatever happened in her life created these changes. So, like I said, there's so much that we can do, and we have to keep digging. We only have one life. I always say it's not a dress rehearsal. What you have right now is what you're going to have. So, the other question here. Detox diets are fads and not necessary. If you think it's right, raise your right hand. If you think it's false, raise your left hand. Ooh, we've got some undecided people here. All right, the answer, it depends. Now, I've been playing with you guys, so I'm gonna, give you another sign language here. Right or true, false? If it's depend, go both hands, okay? Just so you don't feel like, dang, I can never get the answer right? So, it depends. Oh my God, it depends. In my book, which some of you may have seen it out there, it's a brick. I tell you, I just couldn't stop writing, and I knew that it was almost too much, but I wanted in one book the equivalent of 10, 12 topics, because I know how busy people are, and I wanted to, to summarize it so that they could understand. I've got a whole section on toxicity, and I've been on Leanne's show many times with that. Did you know that we are bombarded by about 80,000 chemicals daily in North America? And in our food and products, they're adding about 2,000 chemicals daily. Isn't that scary? And on top of that, a lot of chemicals have been approved or grandfathered in, and they haven't been tested at all. So I really think that in a few years, we're going to be looking and shaking our heads and thinking, what were we doing? Some of you may remember about 3 or 4 years ago, I got Adria Vassil from Ecoholic Home and Body. Great book. Adria is Canadian. She's a journalist. She's done an amazing job with those 2 books to analyze everything from tampon to deodorant to mattresses to carpet. It's still my go-to guide to figure things out. So it depends how toxic you are. And it depends of your environment. I knew my voice would start squeaking, so I'm going to try to calm down a little bit. What are you exposed to all day? Some of you are working in big buildings. You're breathing air that's not so great. Some of you may be drinking water that's not so great. What are you putting on your skin? Most women will leave their house with 14 products on their body. And a lot of women say, no, I don't put that much. Okay, let's go. Shower, shampoo, deodorant. As a shampoo, conditioner, you don't put deodorant on your hair. Deodorant, maybe eyeliner, mascara, maybe a little bit of cream on your body, a little bit of hairspray potentially. So it's toothpaste as well. So when you think about it, it's amazing. how much stuff we put on our body. And that goes for the men as well. Shaving creams and all of those products. So we're constantly bombarded by that. So let alone having a liver that's able to process all that, I strongly believe that we do need to do some level of detoxification throughout, a year. And it also depends on what you're exposed to. Are you sweating? Are you exercising? If you never sweat a drop in your life, how do you think your pores are excreting those toxins? The other one, it depends. Actually, I'm going to flip back to this here. So any of you know what epigenetic means? Okay, genetic, you know what I mean, right? So we can't change our genes. We have about 23,000 genes, and you can't change those. But there's a newer science out there that's called epigenetic, and it's how our environment is impacting our genes. Meaning that you could have a gene, but if your lifestyle is good enough, it will turn off or keep that gene turned off. Pretty cool, right? So me being me and doing the research for the book, I came across a company that will take the data from 23andMe. Anybody has done your genetic testing? 23andMe.ca. You can order the kit online. And you get, the cool stuff like, your ancestors and all of that stuff. And they do tell you some of the basic genes. But the cool thing is Pure Genomic is taking the raw information from 23andMe and then throwing it into their platform, and it's pulling out what's called SNPs, single polymorph, SNP, single nucleotide polymorphism. They're basically little errors in our code, and we all have that. But what's cool is they only pull the ones that we can do something about it. So now you can gather this information and you can see how you're doing. They have one for cognition, they have one for metabolism, they have one for detoxification. So this is a screenshot of my test. So green is good, red not so good, yellow I've got the positive and the minus. So knowing that, I know that I'm not detoxifying properly. So what am I going to do? So if you look at lifestyle changes, I eat broccoli like it's going out of style. I bought a sauna for my home. I do sweat when I go to the gym, but I knew that I needed to be able to detoxify better. I also know that I don't metabolize my estradiol as well as I should. Again, genetic, not much we can do. But knowing all these things, you can fine-tune what lifestyle changes you should do. It's super cool, it's exciting. There is so much out there now when it comes to this type of information, and with artificial intelligence, what they can do and tell us. So what's relevant here to Bob and Janet? So Janet, we've mentioned, has mercury fillings. And last year we had Dr. Dan Pompa who talked about toxicity and mercury fillings and all that. This is just one example. So Janet also worked as an esthetician. Any of you get their nails done? Have you smelled that stuff? Poor Janet worked out of her home in the basement. She breathed that all day. And then Bob here works at a chemical plant. What do you think he's ingesting or breathing every day? So these two could potentially benefit from getting this kind of information and implementing things in their life. And then the question is for you, have you done an inventory of your toxicity? It would be a good thing to do. And what are the things that you can do in your life to decrease what we call your toxic load? Because, let's face it, you can't, rent a cottage and go hide in the woods. It's not something that you can necessarily do. But how can you decrease your toxic load on a daily basis? All right. Now, I know I'm talking about a lot of information there, and just so you know, you can go to that URL and just check which part that you want more information on, and we will send you the information. So if what I just talked about with the genetic testing and the epigenetic testing, well, not the epigenetic testing, but the interpretation of those genes and the lifestyle around it, just go on that website. All right, next question. I eat well, I don't need supplements. So, right, false, or it depends? Yeah, everybody now is going, it depends. I see where you're going with this, Nathalie, right? It depends. Yes, it depends. So, why does it depend? Well, we do need to eat the variety or the color of the rainbow. It's that simple. Every fruit, every vegetables, and fruit, you know, it's sugar, so we got to be careful with that. But every color brings us different nutrients. So having that variety is crucial. So doing a little inventory. What's your fridge looking like? What colors are in there? And again, beets versus, you know, red onions, or, you know, having all the gamut of colors is so important. I feel like a bit of a nerd when I go grocery shopping because I organize my fridge in colors now. So, excuse my French here, but screw the vegetables and the fruit kind of organization. I'm going by colors. So when I make my shake in the morning, I try to have one of each color. It's great. And I even look at it before I blend it in the Vitamix, and you can see the layers of color. And just thinking about it, seems like my cells in my body just get excited from all the nutrients it's going to give me. The other reason why it depends is the quality of our soil. You know, I think the stat is in 1950, an apple gave you whatever amount of iron, and now the research was done, I think, in 2008, you needed something like 50 apples to compensate. That's pretty scary, right? So the quality of our soil is not the same. Our soils are depleted. So somebody can say, I eat well, I eat all the colors. Great, keep at it. And believe me, I'm all for food first. I'm all for it. But if I ask you, how much manganese did you have yesterday? What? I don't know. I didn't count, right? So having a basic good vitamin or multivitamin is not a bad thing because you know that you're going to be covering all of your bases. And then we also have the genetically modified food and the glyphosate and the pesticide that they're putting. So it gets to be very complex. So how does this relate to Bob and Janet? So Janet is eating well, but she's not, well, colors, and she's not taking a multivitamin. And then Bob, you heard the comment, he thinks organic is a waste of money, and he prefers his junk food. So both of them would benefit from obviously eating better, but also from a multivitamin because we don't know if we're covering all of our bases. I know that in the office I always talk about the Fantastic Four when it comes to vitamin. Multivitamin, a fish oil, which is the best natural anti-inflammatory that you will have, probiotics, and then vitamin D. Let's face it, we live in Ottawa, so we're not getting a lot of vitamin D, especially in the winter. It's not coming out with just your face, you know, on cover like this that you're going to get the proper amount of vitamin D. So, do you take a multivitamin? Do you take supplements? Good. So see, I have a smart crowd already. The other question that we're going to discuss, the harder you exercise, the better your results are. True? False? It depends. I like doing that, actually. It's fun. It depends. What does it depend on? Do you guys know that we have those cute little glands on top of our kidneys that they're called adrenal glands? And what their role is in acute situation is adrenal glands, so adrenaline. I think we've all heard, oh my God, I was driving, I almost got rear-ended or whatever, I had a close call, my adrenaline just went through the roof. So adrenaline is that first immediate response. But then we have cortisol, that is a response that's more chronic. And when we go through the day, our cortisol level goes up and down. And I put this slide here. So in the morning, your cortisol should be at its highest point, meaning you're out of bed, you get energy, and you're good to go. As you go at night, it should diminish. And then inversely proportionate to that is the level of melatonin. So one's going to go up, one's going to go down. They're opposite. Adrenal fatigue is so common. I see it in my office like there's no tomorrow. So the typical is 40-year-old woman, 2 kids, busy, go, working out hard, is fatigued, is trying to do everything, and then is almost having hot flashes. She can't sleep. At 2 o'clock in the morning, she's ready to go. Her adrenals are fatigued. And what happens for us, especially women, I see it in men as well, but what happens is as we approach menopause, our estrogen and our progesterone are not as much secreted by our sex organs. Guess who needs to kick in? The adrenals. So good luck if in your 30s, 40s, you went boom, 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 and then they're tired, you're going to have major menopausal symptoms. Oftentimes, we take care of the adrenals and all the other hormones kind of fall into place. There's also something called Adrenal Steal. Again, I'm not going to go into much detail, but there's a pathways of hormone, and the adrenal can literally steal the building blocks for your sex hormone, your estrogen, and your progesterone. So it's the first thing that we need to look at. Now, why am I going with this with exercise? Well, if your adrenals are tapped out, and I'm going to talk about Janet, running marathons not the right thing for you. And again, it's all about, making decision of things you want to do for yourself, but everybody is different. The other reason why it depends is that chronic inflammation. So we only have those joints. We're not going to have any other ones. So the pounding of the exercise, we do have to take in consideration. I mean, I see people running around all the time, and you see someone that, not judging here, but overweight, and I'm thinking, good for you, you're out there running, but you're literally pounding on your joints, and you're probably are not doing something good, and you're creating inflammation, and it's gonna create literally inflammation and degeneration. So HIIT training, Leanne mentioned it briefly in her talk, high intensity interval training is awesome. You don't have to go at it for hours. It's putting stress on the body more than it has to. But again, for the HIIT training, if you're not in great shape, don't go doing some 800 sprint like Carl Lewis and think you're not going to have some issues. So you do have to take that in consideration. So like I mentioned, Janet, is marathon the best exercise for her? Probably not. What would be good? Yoga, walking, stretching, getting her adrenals back in check. And then she may, do half marathon or something like that. Biomechanically speaking, not a lot of us are built to run. Or we are for a short distance, not for the long distance. Don't get me wrong, I did a marathon, it was on my bucket list. Done it, never doing it again, I can tell you that. All right, the next question. It's normal to experience fatigue and PMS symptoms and have low libido as you age. Men in the room, if your wife is here, do not answer this question. Because you might be sleeping in the doghouse and it's cold. So let's start with the answer. It depends. So do you guys know what that little gland is? The thyroid gland. Man, I have a great crowd today. So the thyroid gland is basically the master gland of our metabolism, and it orchestrates everything. So if that gland is not working properly, we're not doing well. So symptoms of adrenal issues: fatigue, hair loss, gaining weight, cold extremities. So and when I mean fatigue, I mean fatigue. So adrenals can make you fatigue, but thyroid can make you fatigue as well. And now what happens too with the thyroid is that, and I'll talk about that in the next slide, is sometime you go to your doctor to get tested and you say, oh, I'm really fatigued. Okay, let's do some blood test. And your TSH level comes back and it's within range. Well, let me tell you that there's a difference between lab range and functional range. So the lab range is 0.4 to 4.5. So in that range, they're saying that you should be fine. But the functional range now we know should not even be above 2. So again, I have so many patients that go, yeah, I went to the doctor, she said the blood tests, are all good. Okay, but what about doing more testing? So with the thyroid, we can test T4, we can test T3, we can test thyroid antibodies. Do you know what the rate of Hashimoto is, autoimmune disease? And that's the other thing, talk about chronic inflammation, but it's going to the point that it's creating autoimmune diseases. Okay? So if the blood tests are not giving you the information that you think, do know that there's a lot of other tests that you can do. In the last couple of years, I actually kind of went back to school and studied with the Institute of Functional Medicine out of the States. And my big aha moment was all the tests that are available, especially in the States, that will tell you if you're deficient in any vitamins or mineral, that will tell you if you're metabolizing your hormone properly, that are not mainstream. So there's so much. So if you're feeling, excuse my French again, like crap, let's do something. Let's keep digging. Why are you feeling this way? And it's oftentimes not just one thing. The other reason why it depends, and I'm going with PMS and all of those things. How many people, it's amazing how many people think PMS are normal. I have a lot of young ladies that are coming in the office and I ask this question, oh yeah, I've got, I almost have to miss school for a whole day, a month because of PMS. We should not have any issues. And the big thing is, we have become what's called estrogen dominant. Because our environment is filled with what are called xenoestrogen. They mimic our estrogen. And guess where those things are? In our food, in our products. So soy, coffee, phthalate. They will go and trick our body and make it think that it's estrogen. Talk about, disturbing your balance. And we're bombarded by those all the time, all the cosmetic and so forth. And this doesn't just apply to women. Men should be concerned as well. How many of you have seen young boy with, breasts? And they should not have that, right? Men are bombarded by that estrogen daily as well. And the other thing too, if someone is a little bit overweight, a man, there's an enzyme that will take the testosterone that men have in higher amount than we do and transform it into estrogen. So this is where the sex drive will decrease. I don't know what the stats are, but I think it's pretty high with erectile dysfunction drugs. Our men are losing their testosterone, and a lot of it is lifestyle related. So how does that affect Bob and Janet? Well, Janet, we said, is been diagnosed or almost diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. So how does that impact her? Her thyroid might need to be checked. Is she bombarded by those xenoestrogen? Would she benefit from a Dutch test to look at the metabolite of her hormone? She probably would. And how about Bob? How does that relate to him? So if we go back to this slide here, I've mentioned with the xenoestrogen, they are. And Bob, if you remember, has a little bit of a belly. So that fat produces that aromatase enzyme that I was talking about, taking his testosterone and transforming it into estrogen. All right, next question. It's almost impossible to not catch a cold. Right? False? It depends. Yeah, it depends. All right. It depends on 3 big things, and we all know that. So sleep, So important. And I don't care how smart we have become with technology, guys, we cannot short our sleep. It's that simple. We're like a computer that needs to be rebooted at night. And if people are only like Leanne, you heard her story, with sleeping 3 or 4 or 5 hours, she decreased her immune system tremendously, and then boom, got shingles. It's because her immune system was so down. Eating well and exercise. These are things that we can do. Are you going to get sick sometime? Potentially. And we usually know we're run down, aren't we? This is when we are most likely to get sick. But, and there's this component here, did you know that 80% of your immune system is in your gut? 80%. That's why I'm such a big fan of probiotics. If we want to keep these guys happy, we need to really take care of them. I mentioned that, there's, as human, we have 23,000 genes. They have 23 million genes. Think about that. I almost joke with patients that, are we a vehicle for those bugs? And they're having a grand old time up there just talking about, this vehicle and this vehicle, because they're more numbered than we are. So we want to make sure that we keep them happy. Another big thing, too, is the neurotransmitter serotonin, which is our happy hormone, is produced in the gut. So again, in my rant, I was talking about probiotic and meditation and so forth, but the gut is that important that it can affect. Have you ever had that feeling that you've said, oh, I should have followed my gut feeling? Isn't it true? And it's kind of a play on word, but it goes that deep. So making sure that your gut is healthy is crucial. Most people that take probiotics daily see an enormous difference with their immune system. Again, you can't bypass the sleep, the exercise, and the eating well part, but it's amazing what it will do. And yogurt is not enough. You need a lot of yogurt to have the different strains of what you actually need. Plus, yogurt most of the time has a ton of sugar. We talked about that. So you're being counterproductive because the bad bugs will feed on sugar. So here you are trying to populate your flora with yogurt that's full in sugar, but yet you're populating the ones that are not so good for you. So I picked this slide actually from one of my IFM course, and I just think it summarizes everything, and it's a big aha for a lot of people. So go to the middle. Do you see symbiosis? So that means I'm happy, my bugs are happy. Now if you go to the right side, it says dysbiosis. So out of balance. Look at the symptoms. IBS. How many people are diagnosed with IBS? Irritable bowel syndrome, right? And people are feeling the symptoms. I'm not saying that it's not a diagnosis, but is it ever vague? Like your gut is upset. That's what it's telling you. Then, if you move that side, you're going to have clinical infection. And that's pretty serious stuff. So this is how it goes. But you started with dysbiosis. Then if we go on the other side, how about eczema? How about allergies? How many people have allergies and don't think two seconds for it, right? Allergies are your body telling you that your immune system is under attack. And then if you go down, then you have those autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, like Hashimoto syndrome. So this is the process that your body will think that whatever is happening, it needs to fight it. And it's attacking basically your own cells. So this is all starting with the proper balance in your gut. How does that go with Bob and Janet? So Bob, his wife is making him take his probiotic, so good. Would Janet benefit from taking probiotic? She's gassy, she's constipated. Again, is that normal? No. We should have a certain amount of gas, but especially women. I don't know how many times I hear that women don't go to the bathroom more than every 4 or 5 days. It's not normal. It's not normal. We should go to the bathroom every day and potentially, hopefully, twice a day. So we eliminate. So if you're constipated and you're gassy, most likely it's telling you that your gut is not working properly. All right, this one. Meditation is the best way to recharge yourself. Right? False? It depends. So is it hard to meditate? Let's be honest. It's freaking hard. I agree. So here I am. I can't sit still more than 5 minutes trying to meditate and getting frustrated with it. I understand the benefit, but I just couldn't do it. So about a year ago, a friend of mine was visiting from the States, and he brought this contraption with him, and he said, I'm using this for meditation. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So the way it goes, it's a headset basically, and it's got acupressure light on your ears that gets turned on, and then you flip the visor down, and then you have, it basically helps balance your right brain and left brain, and it also helps balance the different brain wave that you have. And you do that with guided meditation. And for me, if you've given up on meditating, hopefully you'll take my advice and start with guided meditation. It is so much easier. I actually I can't believe I'm saying this, but now I look forward to my meditation time more than my CrossFit gym time. Literally, I never thought in a million years that I would say that. I'm getting so much out of it. And the guided meditation, what I like about them too, is that I learn. It's making me think, it's making me visualize, it's making me do a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm learning. So to me, learning is a main thing. So no, you don't have to move to Tibet to meditate. And like I mentioned, this technology is, amazing. It's called Brain Tap technology. It's not cheap, but if you think of it as an investment, that's something that you can have basically forever, and something that everybody in your house can tell you. I'm going to tell you a story, but you can't tell my husband, okay? So my husband's a big golfer, and they have a section on that for golfer to better your game. I'm like, yay, I'm going to make him meditate. So I said, honey, you're going to lie down and you're going to do this. He's all about golf. He's good to go. So he does it one day. He does it the second day. We go golfing. He's playing like crap. He really is. And I'm standing there and thinking, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Sure enough, 2 seconds later, that freaking meditation thing's not working. I had to laugh because we can't think we're going to get results that quickly. But as Leanne mentioned in her talk as well, how many times did she have to mentally rehearse what she wanted to do? And I think the big thing is we underestimate. This is a pretty powerful thing we have up there, and we're not tapping into it as much as we should. So how does that apply to Bob and Janet? So Janet, her runs are her meditation, and I have a lot of friends that love running, and myself included. If I go in the woods, you're in the forest, it's nice. It could be a form of meditation. Bob likes to go fishing. He likes to go for walks in the woods. I've done it in the past that I didn't put my headset because I would hit a tree, but I'm listening to some guided meditation as I'm walking in nature. So what is it that you can do? And again, it can be 5 minutes. It could be in your car. Just say, okay, let's reset, let's recenter. We don't have to do something for hours. All right, I believe this might be the last one. So I alluded a little bit to it before. My yearly blood test came back all normal. I have a clean bill of health. True or false, or it depends. Yeah. So sadly, the blood test that we get done is basically telling you if you're not dying. Okay? I hate to break it to you, but it's that basic. And we need it. By golly, we need it. We need to know how our white blood cell, red blood cell, and all that. But it's not even close to giving you a picture. So what I don't like about those blood tests is that the person who's overweight, not exercising, I went to my doctor and came back with a clean bill of health. Bull crap. It's not possible, right? So I think it gives people this sense that they're okay and they're not okay. So if you're not feeling good, on top of that, keep digging. I can't tell you how many other tests are available. You're going to have to pay for it because, unfortunately, our healthcare system is so swamped with emergency, they don't have time for that. It's you. Am I sad or mad that I have to pay for that with all the taxes that I'm paying? Yeah, I'd like it to be covered. But right now, a bed at Montfort for someone who had a heart attack, or a Dutch hormonal test for somebody that's a little bit cranky once a month, which one do you think wins, right? But what are the repercussions of that? We're very urgent based, and medicine is great for that. But at the end of the day, it's you. What is your health worth? I get mad sometimes because people will say, oh, I can't afford this, I can't afford that. And then, again, not judging, but maybe a little bit, turn around and they're going to Disney with the whole family. Priorities, right? Again, that patient said that she's more worried about her 60, 70-year-old body than the body that she has right now, and good for her to realize that at this point. So the answer is it depends, because we're all different. The pure genomic information is amazing, and they keep adding. Now there's also a new test that you can do, and it's just been launched to be available in Canada. It's Beauchamp.com, and basically you send your poop, and they analyze it, and they tell you what your bugs are like. They even tell you what foods you should eat. How cool is that? I've sent mine, it hasn't come back. I don't know if they lost it, but I'm looking forward to get the result. It's funny because when I first found out about it, I'm like, gotta get this done. So I texted Dr. Stephen, that's gonna be our keynote for this afternoon, and I said, we couldn't do it in Canada, and that's often the case. It goes in the US more. So I don't know if it was Stephen or another friend of mine, and I said, can I send my poop to you? And he's like, what? But, I was trying to find a way, how can I get this test done? And within a few weeks, it was open to Canada. So just to say that there's so much out there, and with artificial intelligence added to the equation, it's amazing. But again, it's not going to be covered. It's going to be things that you're going to need to discover and search on your own. How does that apply to Bob and Janet? Well, when it comes to their test, I've already alluded to that. Could Bob get more thorough testing? Probably. But should Bob listen to the basic recommendation to start with? Yeah, right? So sometime we just have to take action. So, what am I doing for time here? Okay. So I think by now you're seeing that pretty much all of my answers were it depends. And I actually debated tossing depends out of the audience, but I'm like, yeah, no, that's not so good. Because I used to have a talk called 10 Things That Put My Panties in a Knot, and I literally tossed panties during that talk, but depends, I'm like, yeah, no, I think I'll pass. But at the end of the day, it does depend. And at the end of the day, it's you that has to figure it out. And I love this here because it says your journey begins. We've heard the story of Toscareno at 43. Obese, could not, go up the stairs. Made the decision to change. Maybe you're already doing a lot of different good things, but how can you take your health to the next level? I discovered in all my years that there's basically 4 stages that we go through. The first one is the stage of ambivalent. These are people that are like, yeah, I should do something, but I don't know if that stuff works. Like, should I? Is it really going to make, like, how many of you hear that? Oh, it's not going to make a difference, right? So the ambivalent stage. Then we have the overwhelmed stage. This is who's going on to Google and reading a whole bunch of stuff and reading conflicting information, and they're so overwhelmed that they're almost frozen. And I see that all the time. They're like, holy crap, she's doing this diet, he's doing this. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to sit here. Overwhelmed. Execution. So these people have read enough. They're like, okay, I can't know everything, but that intermittent fasting, I might just start that. you know, increasing my avocados and my good fats, I may just start that. That meditation thing, I might just start that. So these are people that have started or are in the process of executing and are always looking to execute even more. And then we have the champions. The champions are sometime in the health field themselves, but they're that girlfriend that if you have a question, she knows everything about health, and you can ask her. You know, she's just read so much, and she's just a champion for health, right? Leanne would be a champion. So I don't have to tell you where you are. You know where you are. The question is, are you where you want to be? And if you're not, I beg you to do something about it. And don't feel overwhelmed. It's fun. Swear to God. Don't see it as a mountain. Just see it as a destination, something that you're going towards. And that's why I'm so excited about the book, the action plans, the habits, and then the academy and the transformation process. So what I did, and the books that you're seeing out there are fresh off the press, literally Wednesday. And I only printed 100 because we're technically not completely ready for the full launch online and so forth. But I really wanted to be here and know that my book was done. So we printed 100, and for those 100 people, you're going to be part of a book club that we're starting. Meaning that you'll have access to me and a group of 100 people, and we're going to work together and give each other feedback, and I want your feedback on the book. Because like I said, the official book launch is going to be probably in 6 to 12 weeks. It's quite the thing if you want to become a bestseller online, and I want to do this right, and that's the reason that, you know, I only printed a short version of it. So, Hack Your Health Habit, HYHH resources of a lot of stuff that I talked about. I will be out there later on today. Come and see me. Come and chat with me. And if you want to be part of that book club, you also get, I forgot, we're going to do a VIP event in town when the book is ready to be launched. So we'll have a lot of fun. Because it took me 2.5 years to write this book. Now the next step is to really promote, and I look forward to your feedback. So thank you very much, and I hope that you enjoyed the rest of the day. Please go visit the vendors. Most of them are local. They're small business owners. They are who we have in the community. So we will take a short break, and we will come back at 1 o'clock for the awards, and then right after that, we're going to have Dr. Stephen Giannopoulos talking all about the brain in fitness and in overall health, really. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nathalie.